So I'm delighted this morning to be with Grace Ballantyne, Head of Operations at Melt Homes. Grace, I know Evan very well. Evan, who's been co-hosting National Development Summit, I think it's for 2 years, but it's 1 year. For some reason, I think it's
Feels like two
two.
years.
Yeah, it does. Um, Look, Evan's scheme in Kennington is an apart hotel scheme. So the interview is in this format for the listeners out there in terms of what's an apart hotel, first of all, because there is some confusion. Even I open my arms up and say that. Looking at the trends and looking at the fact, is it risky or de-risky? And then just going into a little bit more about the development in Kennington. So, Grace, I'm really looking forward to the event, the Commercial Property Summit, which Evan's going to be speaking at. Really delighted he's brought along the likes of Robert Godwin. I don't know how you pronounce Godwin's surname. I think it's Godwin, right?
Correct.
Um, that is correct, yeah. So for those who don't know, um, Robert Godwin's company, not connected to Evan as such, his company's tripled in size in the last 7 years, and Robert's an advocate of the apart hotel scheme. So, Grace? What do you see as apart hotel? What is the definition?
Yeah, so an apart hotel is really taking, I guess, the hotel concept and also what's been happening in recent years with the rise of Airbnb, and really taking that and putting it more into a hotel scheme. So I guess the key difference with an apart hotel room and a hotel room is the fact that it has a kitchenette in there and that it's slightly larger as well. So the studios tend to be around 18 square meters of space, and the one beds tend to be around 25 or so square meters. And really what it is that it's a bit like a home away from home. So if you are traveling but staying for more than 1 or 2 nights, you might be staying 3 to 5 nights, or you might be away with work and you need somewhere to stay for several weeks. The apart hotel concept is much more like having an actual apartment that you're staying in rather than a hotel room. So you've got all the other I guess amenities like the kitchenette space, so you don't have to go downstairs to the breakfast buffet to have breakfast.
See, I like that though, Grace. For me, I like that, but maybe I'm not the ideal target market. Maybe the ideal target market is someone who's going to be there for longer than maybe a few days
Well,
and wants it to be a home from home, as you say.
yeah, and that's why it doesn't necessarily compete directly with hotels as well, because a hotel stay is generally 1 to 2 nights, whereas an apart hotel stay is more than 3 nights. So in fact, quite often what we'll see is an apart hotel and a hotel next to each other, but they don't compete directly. So that's okay. But yeah, I agree. Having the breakfast buffet and all of those amenities are great if that's what you're looking for. But also, if you're the person staying there and you're there for a bit longer, then that can get a bit tiresome. And you do want that space to yourself. So having all those amenities, I guess, within the room and having it be a little bit like a home away from home is really, I guess, the way forward for what a hotel are looking to do. But formalizing, I guess, the concept that Airbnb have, where you are essentially staying in someone else's apartment and taking that and formalizing it into the apart hotel sector.
Mm. So look, I know everyone's quite passionate on apart hotels over the last 6 months, maybe a bit longer. So in terms, we've briefly touched on what an apart hotel is, and generally apart hotels don't have gyms, so um, that can.
Generally not, yeah. And that means that then from an operational efficiency perspective, the costs are less. So there's not so many staff that are required on site. So it actually means for the end user, for the person who's paying that per night room fee, that actually that can be uh, quite a bit less than a hotel room a lot of the time because they're not having to cover all those overheads within that fee.
So look, some people would say moving into the commercial space or moving away from residential is risky, but Evan, I'm sure, and yourself as head of operations at Melt Property, formerly Melt Homes, would say it's actually less risky, particularly looking at some of the trends which Savills come out with in one of their reports recently.
Yeah.
Before we were coming on air, you were discussing that Savills report. Do you want to just go into a little bit more detail?
Yeah, so Richard Dawes from Savills was mentioning this recently, but currently the penetration of apart hotels within the UK market is at 7%. and that's forecasted to rise to 9% over the next 2 years. So that's an increase of just under 30% in a 2-year period, which is huge. And globally as well, apart hotels have got a much higher penetration of around 13 to 15%, and it's much more, I guess, established. Whereas here in the UK, it's now a rising, fast growing market. And so that's what we're really capitalizing on there. Because I know you mentioned before about it. You were saying, is it risky? Is it not risky? And actually, we see it more as a way of diversifying and de-risking what we're doing in terms of development. So the residential market at the moment is somewhat iffy, but what that enables us to do is to obviously have the residential projects that we work on, but also work on commercial projects such as apart hotels and mixed use schemes, which actually enables us to de-risk a lot of the projects.
Oh, have we lost you, Grace? Let's just. Oh, have we
Am I
lost
here?
you? You're back there.
Am I here,
You
Brendan?
are. Yep.
Where
Oh,
did you hear up to?
it's we. I just realised it's coming off my phone rather than on the stable co-working space
Ah, okay.
link. So I should really be using the co-working space. I tethered the wrong.
Thought it was
Um,
my Wi-Fi, but it must be.
yeah, it's my Wi-Fi because I'm using my phone.
Mhm.
Um, look, co-working is a new trend as well.
Mhm.
Um, Lots of new trends out there. Grace, we've briefly covered um, a little bit about the commercial summit. Robert Godwin. I've never met Robert. Have you met Robert, Grace, or have?
Yes,
Yeah.
I've heard it before.
So, um, I know Aaron seems to know him quite well as well. Aaron Yahara, who's doing a delve into discovering how Robert's tripled the company size in the last 7 years. What's your experience of Robert and any key takeaways from meeting up with Robert? So what did you find interesting about what room? I think it's called Room 2, but
Yeah.
it goes on. There's a second part of the name.
Yeah. So Room 2 is, I guess, Robert Godwin's apart hotel brand, but actually they brand themselves more as a hometel rather
That's
than.
it, Hometel.
Yeah, and I think that's what's really interesting about Room 2 is the branding and how they're differentiating themselves in that way. So really, what we were saying a bit there about it being a home away from home, that's more what Room 2 focuses on, and really focuses on the attention to detail. So I've been around and seen one of their, I guess, apart hotel concepts that they have in Hammersmith. And it's really interesting, all the little attentions to detail that they've put in there. Like they've got like shopping baskets for you to go out and buy your groceries, even things like the light switches that they use. For example, in a hotel, there's about 10 different light switches and you don't know what does what. Whereas in Room 2's concept, I think there's just one light switch for each room, which is really basic, but it's those little things that makes it feel like, okay, I'm not staying in a hotel, I'm staying in an apartment, or I'm staying like in a home. And then even in the kitchen area, they've got it's just a lot of detail that they put in there. And I remember walking into the Hammersmith place that you can leave notes at the front to say, how your stay was. There's just a lot of little attention to detail that goes into Room 2's actual rooms and the concept in itself that makes it feel much more exciting than staying in a hotel room. So I think they're going to go far over the coming years. So I think Robert will probably touch more on that, but definitely their brand is incredibly strong, and I know that they're growing rapidly across the UK at the moment.
Grace, is there any other key takeaways or just to focus briefly on the Kennington project? So,
Yeah, I mean, I think a key takeaway is that what hotels and apart hotels enable for a developer is the fact to de-risk the project up front. I think this is maybe when the internet was cutting out. But if you get an operator in place, such as Room 2 or another apart hotel operator, put them on a 25-year lease or so on,
so it's usually on a 25-year lease?
usually around there. And what that enables you to do as a developer is to de-risk the project, because then you can forward fund it and sell it on to a pension fund or another large investor. And then that project is de-risked from the get-go. So unlike residential, where you're waiting a lot of the time until the end of the project for that sale to happen, and say if you have 30 apartments that you're trying to sell as part of a scheme, then you have to sell that onto 30 different buyers. And generally that will happen towards the end of the project and once it's built out. Whereas with this, what we're doing it with the Kennington project, hopefully, is being able to make that forward sale ahead of time. So that then, yeah, I guess it's different to residential because we don't have to wait until the end of the project for that security to be in place. And so actually it enables us to mitigate a lot of that risk upfront in the project. So for investors and developers, it's a way to, yeah, de-risk projects.
Grace, just a couple of other things. Hopefully I'm not giving too many of Evan's secrets away in terms of who's in his team. I know there's the Melt Property team, of course.
Yeah.
In terms of the architect, I think it's public knowledge he's working with, hopefully, can we say?
Yeah, Ackroyd Lowry.
Ackroyd Lowry. So delighted Ollie Lowry will be at the Commercial Property Summit. Ollie will be on the panel focused on trends in commercial property. And is it public knowledge who Evan's planner is?
I think so. Well, I think he's coming to the summit, isn't he?
He is, yeah. So no, I wasn't sure if it was public.
I don't think it's secretive.
Okay, so Phil Villas
Yeah.
is Evan's planner. So look, it's an amazing event. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it for two reasons. One is that literally the day after I fly out to France as well, get some rest.
I think we're going like on the same flight pretty much, so I'll see you.
Well, we will be there the same day. I think you're on a different airport, Gatwick. I'm going from Stansted, I believe.
So we can wait a photo in front of the I Heart Nice sign at the airport, Brendan.
Yeah. So Grace, how can people find out more? Of course, you can find out more about the commercial summit. That's easy, bequinevents.com/commercial property summit. Or just follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. But how can people find out more about Melt Property, the Kennington project? Is there a website?
Well, first of all, I'd tell them to buy a ticket to the commercial
summit
on the
7th of March.
Yeah, because I think that would be a good way. And obviously Robert's going to be there talking about ApartHotels, and we're going to be there also talking about the apart hotel market. But also we've got Melt Property on Instagram, Melt Property, Facebook, LinkedIn, and I feel like we've got Twitter as well, but we don't use that quite so much. So those three are the main ones. And we do post on there now fairly regularly with content about the projects that we're doing and stuff that's coming up or where we're going to be speaking at. And obviously I've got my own personal Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn accounts, as does Evan too. So people can get in touch with us on any platform. But really the one that has everything that everyone in the team is doing is the Melt Property account.
So just one quick question before you shoot off, because I didn't realize it was 25 years generally, the contract, or I'm not sure what terminology you use.
Yeah. You
go on.
want to get a long-term lease there, or else it's much of a purchase for that investment fund or pension fund.
Sure. And there are some hotels which also come into the apart hotel sector. So you may not necessarily be dealing with an apart hotel specialist. It could be a hotel which wants to come into the apart hotel sector. Is that right, Grace?
I think so. Yeah, with the growing market now in serviced accommodation, moving on to apart hotels. Yes, definitely. Obviously, the traditional hotel operators all, I guess, want a slice of the pie. So I believe some are coming out with their own apart hotel brands, or even I think within their existing hotels, they might be looking to optimize that space as well and offer that solution. So yes, that is definitely something I think that we're going to see over the coming years with the growth in the market, is looking at how traditional hotel operators are able to also have slice of the pie.
Grace, I just want to say a massive thanks for taking out time today. Apologies to my listeners for me tethering with my phone Wi-Fi, not the co-working Wi-Fi. And co-working is another topic which is going to be covered at the Commercial Property Summit. So massive thanks, Grace, for time this morning. Thank you, and
Yeah.
thanks to the listeners.
Cool.